What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mode video. So today we are going to be talking about another buff that was made for Season 3 of this game. And I know this is one that is probably not going to be talked about that often throughout the duration of the season or the next. But this one is kind of important because this one pertains to, of course, the MAC-10. And at the same time, it is understandable as to why this change would be overlooked, given the fact that, when it comes to bullet speed improvements, some minor ones may look minor, but when you actually, play in game, they could always end up becoming major ones. When it comes to bullet speed weapons, I didn't really take bullet speed too seriously until probably much later on, probably a little bit later than I should have taken it seriously. And with the MAC-10, it's always been one of those weapons where I have to be kind of cautious with bullet speed because this is probably one of the weapons that has the lowest. Other guns that have like maybe over like 1,000 bullet speed, or at least have the capability to make it to that point, you're never really gonna have to worry too much because, usually you hit those targets pretty quickly. It's almost instant. But when it comes to weapons below that, around, especially like below 500, those are the ones that you do have to worry about the most because it does matter, especially if you're trying to take them out at long range. And even a buff from like, let's say 400 meters per second to like 500 meters per second would actually mean the world to the weapon. And this, of course, is speaking in terms of just its base bullet speed, because when you start adding all the factors in, such as task force barrels, reinforced heavy barrels, or just anything that improves the bullet speed, it's going to carry over even further. So let's say you have this assault rifle that has a default amount of 800 meters per second in bullet speed. And let's say there's a barrel that increases it by maybe like, let's say 10%. So it goes up to, I don't know, 880, maybe 900. But then let's say in a next update, they improve that bullet speed from like, let's say 800 to 1,000. And then you add that, barrel like after the update, it ends up becoming a much bigger thing. Like it ends up going to like maybe 1,200, 1,300. And now you're hitting targets immediately without any sort of delay. This is, in its most basic way, is kind of how the MAC-10 currently feels right now. So looking at the changes for the MAC-10, they did improve the range. I guess the first range, they improved it as well as the second, where they improved it by 2 meters, which actually is a pretty big one for SMGs, I would say. And of course, the most important change is, of course, the bullet speed. It increased from 300 meters per second by default to 440 meters per second as its new default. So with the bullet speed attribute of 300 meters per second, if you do put the task force barrel, it will increase from 300 meters per second to 540 meters per second. So that's still not really a big amount, but of course with the MAC-10, it does shoot rapidly, so I guess you would not really notice how bad the bullet speed was. But when you put in the new amount, which is 440 meters per second, and you add that task force barrel, it goes up to 792 meters per second. So you do kind of see a massive difference when it comes to bullet speed when it gets improved on the weapon itself rather than some sort of attachment. So as hopefully you guys can see, it does make a pretty big difference if you are looking at the footage. I think probably one of the biggest mistakes of content creators making top 10 videos of what is meta and what is not is the fact that sometimes it seems that they don't really look thoroughly at all of the patches because, there are weapons out there, for all you know, that could have been changed to a point where it could make them actually superior to another. Like, I know this might sound like a terrible take, but I think the MAC-10 at this point might actually be able to compete against the Fennec. I know it sounds really weird to say because I know people hold the Fennec to kind of like a high regard, especially in the competitive scene, but if you're one that doesn't really like to deal with the recoil control as I do, usually it's kind of, like for me, I kind of have trouble dealing with the recoil of that gun. As good as it is, but sometimes it's not really that effective. The MAC-10 is pretty much a perfect alternative because there's hardly any recoil at all with the weapon. Not only that, but if you also factor in the, just not just the bullet speed, but just the fire rate in general, I think it kind of makes up for it, especially if you're shooting someone that's kind of up close. I would personally like to see a match between two high-tier competitive players, one using the MAC-10 and one using the Fennec, just to really see for sure which is the most superior weapon. But that's just me, but I do suggest you guys give the MAC-10 a try because, dude, it does feel way better. It's kind of one of those things where you kind of have to see it for yourself. It just hits a lot differently. It feels a lot more, not stable, but a lot more fluid. And it would be kind of like a shame to see how this weapon gets overlooked until a later time. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe for some more COD Mobile content. I'll see you guys next time.